You- Okay, is this mic working? Looked like it was on. Come on, light. I wonder if we left it on last week. Oh, there's a green. Now we can hear. Okay, welcome to the Downtown Madison Kiwanis, December 6th, 2021. We will start with our Pledge of Allegiance, and the flag's over here. Maybe I'll put it up here. There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to just move right into the Chancellor. I have the honor of introducing my colleague, former colleague, now that I'm retired, but Rebecca Blank's been with Madison since July 2013, so she'll finish 9 years almost. If you haven't heard, she is leaving to go down to one of her past institutions and become president of Northwestern University down in Evanston. Chancellor Blank is an internationally known economist. She got her undergrad degree from my graduate alma mater, the University of Minnesota, and she has her PhD from MIT in economics. And among other things that she's done is she's worked in both the Obama and Bill Clinton administrations in DC, serving as the Deputy Secretary and Acting Secretary of Commerce under Obama. And she was also on the Council of Economic Advisors under President Clinton. Well versed in academia from Michigan to Northwestern. And we've had the pleasure, as I said, of having her as our chancellor for 9 years. And I'm gonna just turn it over to Chancellor Blank, and she has comments about basically the status of UW-Madison in her last 6 months, roughly, of her tenure here. So thank you for talking with us, Chancellor Blank, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. I'm going to take my mask off. I'm far enough away from all of you that I think we're hopefully safe. It is great to be here. I think I was at the Kiwanis Club, I don't know, was it 5 or 6 years ago at the Madison Club? It's been a while now. So it's good to see all of you. Thank you for inviting me back. I know that a lot of people here have UW ties. How many of you are, you or your spouse or someone has worked, or your children? You know, by the time you say that, it's most of the crowd in many cases around here. So thank you for all of the support and service that you have done to the university over the years. I know there are a lot of you here. You know, one of the things that has always impressed me about UW-Madison is the deep commitment of faculty, staff, and alumni to the university, and the very strong ties between the university and the community. You know, it's quite honestly, Northwestern and Evanston have not had that type of amicable relationship. And here, the relationship, the integration of the university into the community, the ways in which we work most of the time quite effectively with the mayor, with the county executive, with you know, all the things that are, all of the different volunteer organizations, is one of the really good things about this place. We have had some really major challenges over the last year and a half, like any of you in any organization you're part of, but we've also made some progress on some significant goals that I want to share with you. So let me start in the right place, which is talking about some of the good news from campus. This semester has meant a return to in-person classes and in-person activities. The students, I've never felt this atmosphere on campus, that it was like the first few weeks of the fall. The students were absolutely gleeful to be back, you know, in person and around. And if the cost of that was you had to wear a mask everywhere inside, they were more than happy to do that. And we do know that in most cases, not everywhere, but in most cases, in-person learning and residential learning and the interactions you have with people across campus outside the classrooms leads to much better educational outcomes. So it was great to be back. In just this past month, A little bit of good news. Two of the women in our senior class were announced as finalists for the Rhodes Scholarship, a very prestigious academic award. And a team of our students from the College of Engineering was one of several first place winners. I don't know how you have multiple first place winners, but you know, they do, in a competition run by Elon Musk to find new ways to address climate change. And what the students were doing, that's fascinating, developing a method for capturing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, then mixing it with ash and slag from industrial furnaces to create limestone to be used in building. So you heard it here first. Those are just two examples of our amazing students. Some of you know exactly how amazing and smart they are. And it speaks to the quality of our class, of our education, and of the out of classroom experiences they have as well. We have a wonderful freshman class this year. It is the largest class we have ever had. About 8,000 students selected from a record 54,000 applicants, and our applications have doubled in the last 10 years. We're a very hot school right now. The class includes the largest number of Wisconsin students that we have ever seen. That's particularly striking because the number of Wisconsin high school graduates has been slowly ticking down. Many of you know that the demographic decline of younger people in the state. So as we've increased, as we have even more Wisconsin students, it means our share of the high school graduating class coming to UW-Madison is the highest that it's ever been. And you know, that's good service to the state. I'm glad to see that. At the same time, we've expanded in size. We've also grown in quality. And this is something we've been able to do with this deep growing pool of applicants. It's not just more people, but quite honestly, it's a higher quality group of people. And our admissions office has been working hard to attract the best students, particularly from this state, to stay in the state and stay at UW-Madison. So one measure of that are national merit finalists. This is the 5th year in a row that our number of national merit finalists have gone up, both from within the state of Wisconsin as well as outside the state. And, you know, a measure that our quality is higher now than it's ever been. And then at the same time, we're also working on diversity. And we have a record share of students of color in this freshman class. 25% of the class are students of color, and 15% are students from underrepresented groups within the country who, you know, the official definition of Black, Latina, Latino, Native American, and a few Asian American groups like Hmong. So, you know, we've been able to both increase size, increase quality, increase diversity, and we're just, you know, we're in really good shape. The size of the freshman class was a bit of a surprise this year. We weren't aiming for this big a class. You know, of all the problems to have, having more people take up your offer than you projected in your admissions office is not a bad problem, particularly post-COVID. And we're probably going to cut the class size back a little next year, to be honest, because we do not have the space in the dorms, but you know, it was good. As we're working to bring more students in, we're also trying to increase graduation rates. We are now one of the top 10 public universities in the United States in our 6-year graduation rates, which is the measure that everyone uses. We're just a tad under 90% in terms of 6-year graduation rates. Our retention rate from freshman to sophomore year is a little bit over 95%. And again, that's also among the top 10 in public universities. So we're maintaining quality up there too. Faster graduation means less debt. The sooner you get through school, the less you have to borrow. And one of the things I'm particularly proud of as you look over the last number of years, debt levels at UW-Madison have actually gone down. In our graduating class of seniors last year, 57% of the students graduated with zero debt. That, you know, all the things you read about how everyone's accumulating huge amounts of debt and everyone leaves college and they can't, you know, that's just not true at UW-Madison. Almost, you know, 2/3 of our students have zero debt. Of those who have debt, we have one of the lowest debt levels of any college and university in the state of Wisconsin. And our students repay it at, you know, I think the default rate on debt among our students after they graduate is under 1%. At the national level, it's 11%. And, you know, that tells you that they graduate, they get jobs, they have no problems repaying that debt. It's, you know, borrowed at a level that let them get through college and which they can then, with their college degree, go back and repay. And then finally, this is my last piece of good news here. We can all argue about rankings of universities. We can criticize them, but I've now got a new favorite ranking. This fall, the Washington Monthly, which ranks universities based on three things: their impact in research, their impact on the economic mobility of their students, how much do their students move up over their lifetime in socioeconomic status, and the amount of community service the university does. It's not a bad three things to be ranked on, right? Well, these rankings don't come out every year. I think they're every second or third year. The rankings that just came out puts us on the top 5. Stanford, MIT, Duke, UW-Madison is number 4, and Harvard trails at number 5. So that's my current favorite ranking. We were able to get back in person this fall semester for 2 reasons. A very carefully designed set of protocols around public health, and we've really worked hard at that, and a successful vaccination program. We do not have mandatory vaccination on campus. That's something that the state legislature would have been very unhappy about. That really made me worried because many of our peer schools do have mandatory vaccination, but our students and our faculty came through. Without mandatory vaccination, 95% of our students and employees are vaccinated, and more than 99% of our faculty are vaccinated. I want to find the 5 faculty members who aren't vaccinated and talk to them, but those who are not vaccinated are required to test weekly, and our 7-day positivity rates have been around or below 1% among that group since pretty much the beginning of the semester. So in addition to bringing students back and employees back and getting the university running, we've also restarted pretty much our entire research enterprise. A lot of labs were operating in reduced capacity or not doing everything they might otherwise have done. And we've become a very important center for COVID research over the last year and a half. Our faculty have brought almost $100 million in over the last 18 months in federal research grants related to COVID-19. Among the sort of things they're working on, helping hospitals to assess which critically ill patients are at the highest risk of dying from COVID-19, and then taking special measures with that set of patients. It turns out the progress of COVID is substantially affected by a lot of key factors beyond just the disease things that a doctor would look at, such as the socioeconomic status of the patients, the level of support they have at home, and the level of strain the hospital is under. We're working on 2 different vaccines with partners from around the world. One would protect against multiple different coronaviruses, and the other is called CoroFlu, which would be a combination vaccine to protect against both the flu and the coronavirus. Neither of those obviously are yet at market, but they're good things to be working on. All of the achievements of not just the last 18 months, but the last decade plus of what this university has done are due to a really conscious strategy that certainly over my time here I've been working on. First, to expand the number of students we serve while also improving their quality. Second, to improve access to the university for all students to make sure it's affordable. And third, to grow the research enterprise so that UW-Madison stays on the leading edge of innovation and discovery. And let me say a few words about each of those. Expand undergraduate class size and quality. I've already talked about that some. We're at the end of a 5-year initiative, increasing the size of the freshman class by 250 students every year. That's in response to demographic shifts in Wisconsin that are shrinking the number of Wisconsin students. We actually expected our Wisconsin student numbers to decline. They haven't. They've held steady. They've ticked up just a little bit by maybe 100 students. And that's good. That tells you that we're being very competitive. And as I said, we've really worked to get a number of students to come to Madison who in other times might have left or gone out of state or gone to another, to privates or whatever. But we're also really working to take advantage of the pool of out-of-state students, which among our applicants is growing by leaps and bounds. Very high quality, really want to come to UW-Madison. The probability of getting a UW-Madison if you're an out-of-state student has gone down steadily every year for the last 10 years because the pool has increased so fast. And our effort to try to increase class size is basically to largely grow that out-of-state pool to help do many things, not one of which is to offset the declines in state budget, as well as the tuition freeze. I've been here 9 years. We've had a tuition freeze for 10 years. And, I challenge any of you who've ever worked in any business to freeze your prices for 10 years, because I promise that my expenses have not been frozen. And we just had to find ways to deal with that. And fortunately, we're in a great position. We could take advantage of this large pool of out-of-state students. And we've been able to do it without decreasing the number of Wisconsin students we serve. And in fact, as I said, this year we have the largest group of Wisconsin students we've ever had. But we can't just bring students in. We have to make sure that we give them the educational experience that keeps them there and that is worth what they're paying us, in-state or out-of-state. And that means better academic and career advising. We've made some really good improvements on both of those fronts. New programs to improve diversity and make our campus a place where all students feel like they belong, and a even greater focus on educational excellence. Many of you who went to school here or at some of the other big publics, I went to the University of Minnesota, as Kevin said, remember sitting through a lot of really big lectures as a freshman. And we still have a few of those, but we've really designed many of our courses to use technology and to use small group activities in ways that make them more interactive and more engaging. So the whole idea of active learning, even in bigger classes, is, students interacting with each other, with faculty, with their TAs, is something we've been working at hard and I think been reasonably successful at. So that's the student education side. Number two, improving access to the university. And we've done this in two ways. One, we've greatly expanded our scholarship aid. Wisconsin state dollars, a lot of states put money into higher education scholarships for students who go to their public universities. Out of 50 schools, Wisconsin ranks 50th in the amount of scholarship aid it gives. It's very, very low. And so, one effect of that was that we were very low in scholarship aid when I walked through the door. And it's very clear that if we want to increase quality and we want to attract top students and we want to increase diversity, that we had to work on increasing scholarships. And we've done that a number of ways. As many of you know, we've had a big fundraising campaign with our alumni running and have created, literally thousands of new scholarships through that over the last 5-6 years. But we've also taken some of the additional revenue we've generated other ways and put it into scholarships. One of the most exciting programs we've created is a program called Bucky's Tuition Promise, which I hope a number of you might have heard of. Bucky's Tuition Promise guarantees 4 years of zero tuition and fees for low-income students from the state of Wisconsin. So if you are a family whose income is below, I think it's about $62,000 right now, that's about the median of the income distribution. So you're, below the middle of the income distribution, and your child gets into UW-Madison, we guarantee them 4 years with basically zero tuition, right? Free college. Now you still have, some students will get additional scholarships on top of that, particularly very low income students. Many students will still work and have to pay living expenses, but it does guarantee that there's a big help for them for coming to college. We currently have nearly 3,500 students on campus who are part of this program and attending essentially tuition free. The second way we're improving access is with a initiative launched to try to increase online access to the university. This we launched before the pandemic. I will say the pandemic has given a lot of our faculty a lot more experience with online teaching, some of it good, some of it bad. And, that's helped us to expand this program a little faster. The idea here is to provide UW-Madison degrees to non-traditional students who are not going to be able to come and live on campus, a non-residential learning experience. And we're looking here at older students, many of them with families, married, with jobs, who have some college credit, but did not complete college and are now at a point in their career where they understand they actually really need the college degree. So the result of this is that 2 years ago, we started our first undergraduate online degree program. It was in the School of Human Ecology, Personal Finance. It was a pilot that first year. We didn't have many students, and quite honestly, we didn't want many students. We needed to try to make this work. And we now this year have 6 programs online. 5 of them so 2 of them are in SOE, 4 of them are in the business school. So you could get a variety of different sort of flavors of an undergraduate business degree. And of course, those are some of the most sought after courses for online degrees. We've made a major investment in this. I have to tell you that running an online university is an entirely different occupation from running a residential university. Advising is different. The way you bring students in is different. You have to teach differently online if you're going to be effective. All of our faculty learn that. So, we've put some big money into this. We aren't breaking even yet. But we are expecting over the next 3 to 4 years to substantially increase the number of students enrolled in an online degree at UW-Madison. And, in doing that, serve a whole lot of other people in the state who wouldn't otherwise have access to a degree from Madison. And that's, part of the access effort. Third initiative, grow research to keep the University of Wisconsin at the leading edge of innovation and discovery. You all know Wisconsin is one of the top research universities in the world. We do about $1.3 billion of research every year. This past year, in the midst of the pandemic, 1.3 billion is the amount of money we spent last year on research. The alternative is to look at how many dollars did you get awarded. Now you get awarded dollars and you spend them over time as you do the project, right? We got awarded $1.5 billion last year in the middle of the pandemic. So our expenditures are going to continue to grow. We've had real growth over the last 4 to 5 years in our research dollars that we're bringing in and then in turn spending. This is both federal grants as well as working hard to build partnerships with companies, particularly companies in the region. So for instance, our faculty have developed personalized cancer treatments, including computer software that allows physicians to make more accurate predictions about which treatment option is going to work best for their patients, or exploring treatments that may help prevent Alzheimer's disease by targeting memory decline up to 20 years before the classic symptoms of Alzheimer's appear. Or exploring new ways to improve indoor air quality and limit the spread of infectious diseases. To do this type of work requires oftentimes not just a really good engineering, electrical engineering group or a really good oncology group. Increasingly, big science requires interdisciplinary projects that bring people in from across a whole variety of departments and schools and colleges. And one of the real advantages of UW-Madison, because we're all on one contiguous campus, is the ability to put those groups together and therefore bring in some big research funding and work on some really exciting projects that can really make a change in the world. So, I'm excited about where we are with research. It's moving forward and growing and expanding in a lot of interesting ways. One thing the medical school is doing that it was doing almost none of is it's now involved in running clinical studies for various pharmaceutical companies, which means we've been involved with the testing of 2 of the major COVID vaccines, which is not something we're involved in. Both is that's a good thing to do from a research and a financial standpoint, but it's also a good thing to do in terms of making a contribution to the health and well-being of this country and indeed of the world in some ways. So if you've tried to get anywhere on campus recently, we've also been building a few new buildings. And if you go down university and, half the lanes are blocked off, I know that. You can complain to me about that. We have a new chemistry building that is going to be opening for this next semester, which I'm really excited about. It's that big building right just a block away from the WID, and it's going to be wonderful. You have any chance to wander through it, you should do so. We're going to be opening a new Center for Dairy Science, the old Babcock building where you went to buy your ice cream. That will reopen, and it's been under construction now for a number of years. And there'll be a new ice cream store in there, so be sure to stop by there. We are starting the construction on an expanded hospital and laboratory and classroom space for the School of Veterinary Medicine, much, much needed. And we're just at the beginning stages of doing design work on a new building that will house our newly created, as of 3 years ago, School of Computer, Data, and Information Science, which is growing by leaps and bounds. The biggest undergraduate major on campus these days computer science by orders of magnitude. We have over 2,000 computer science majors right now. Economics, which was always the biggest program, is like 1,200, right? And yeah, biology is number 4 these days. Number 4, yeah. We opened a new data science major last September, a year ago, at the beginning of, in the middle of this pandemic. We already have 800 majors in it. This is the growing area, and building a space and a building for a very rapidly growing faculty, a rapidly growing student body in this area is just deeply important. And I'm quite convinced that computer and data science is not just about a department of computer and data science, but if you look at virtually any discipline, whether it's in the arts or the social sciences or the natural or physical sciences, the use particularly of data and big data and of software is really changing the way certain fields in virtually every discipline are doing their work. So building this strength, not just to build this department, but to build this strength across the university is important for the future. And then I should note we got the state. I was not expecting, I was dubious about this. The state did agree in the last budget to fund a new building for the College of Letters and Science, basically a classroom office building. This is part of our effort to clear out the old humanities monstrosity over there on the corner of University and Park. That building is so out of date. The classrooms are dated. The air handling system doesn't work. The roof leaks, the windows leak. So this is the first letters and science building the state has funded in 50 years. So we're going to have a new building. It's going to be called Irving and Dorothy Levy Hall, which will help us move some of our really key departments out of humanities. Less sexy, but equally important, we were renovating all of the 100-plus-year-old steam tunnels under Central Campus. And that's a project that's sort of been marching across campus because we've got steam tunnels all over campus. It was on Bascom Hill for a couple of years. It's now between Bascom Hill and University and blocking one lane of traffic at the moment. But that's a really important project as well. And then finally, as some of you know, if you go to the Cole Center, we completely replaced the old SURF, which was the student rec center on that part of campus, which was also way too small and way outdated. And that's now reopened. If you have any chance to go in there, it's a beautiful building. We're now replacing the natatorium, which was the student rec center over on the lakeshore near the vet med school. And that is going to give us, so we're not just a rec center, recreation and well-being center. And we're going to do a number of fitness classes and cooking classes and other things there, in addition to a place for students to work out and to be. All of those investments underscore our commitment to maintain the University of Wisconsin in Madison as one of the world's premier public universities. None of this is cheap or easy. And I will tell you, the pandemic created a major financial disaster on campus. I could have spent the whole half hour talking about that. That's the bad news. But the good news is we've absorbed the costs and the cuts. And, it wasn't easy. All of our staff and faculty took furlough days. We did some budget cuts. We reduced expenditures. We got a little bit of help from the federal government. That was really important. But we are past that financially, and we're going back onto strong financial footing as we move forward. So let me conclude, as I started, by sharing one more piece of good news. I mentioned the alumni fundraising campaign, and I suspect there may be some people in this room who even wrote a check or so that got counted into that. Last month, the end of this year is the end of a 6-year fundraising campaign we called Always Forward. And when we originally set this up in my first few years, we had a lot of discussion about what's our goal for this campaign. And we decided on a goal of 3.2 billion, which a number of people thought was laughably ambitious, that we wouldn't get anywhere close to it. And we'd only hurt ourselves by announcing a goal we couldn't meet. Well, at the end of this year, we will have surpassed 4 billion. And we're just going to keep going on this, right? Now, let me be clear, that's not all spendable money. It's not like I have $4 billion in my hip pocket and come ask me for money and I can give you some. Almost all of it is allocated into endowment for very specific purposes. It comes out of endowment at 4.5% a year. It goes to this scholarship in that department. It goes to a faculty member in this field over in that department. It goes to a particular research center. There are things like that, it's tied money, but it's tied money to things the university needs that will help increase our excellence over the years ahead. For instance, I already used this, we've created nearly 5,000 new scholarships for undergraduates and graduate students over the last 5 years with this campaign. We funded more than 300 faculty chairs, which essentially gives money to faculty members to pursue research and to partially fund their salary. Getting a faculty chair is a sign of real status. I mean, it's a sign you're really a premier faculty member. So it's a great way to recruit top faculty and to retain good faculty so they don't go elsewhere. And we've expanded a lot of highly successful programs like the Business Emerging Leaders Program, the BELL program in the School of Business that brings really talented students into the business school. So I want to thank any of you who've taken part in that campaign. It is running till the end of the year. It's not too late to write your check. Whether you are working with students here, whether on a volunteer basis, whether you have worked with students, whether you, are serving on a campus board or committee, and I know there are a lot of local people who do that, or whether you just come to campus for sporting events or for concerts or for an evening on the terrace, you help enrich the life of the campus. And I am very grateful always for the interest and the support of this community. So let me stop there, and I'd be happy to take questions. Thank you. Yeah.
Phil, if you didn't cover it, would you give us your view on financial compensation for student athletes?
Yeah, I didn't cover that. How much time do you have? College sports has become a big money enterprise. All right. The involvement of TV and increasingly streaming services in covering these programs mean that we're getting huge amounts of money coming into all of our top Division I programs as a result of that. One effect of that is that salaries have gone up. As you all know, coaches' salaries are sort of in the stratosphere. They're looking increasingly like the way you pay coaches in professional schools. And one effect of that is that students in those sports that make money are looking around and saying, why don't we get more of that? Okay. There is a whole bunch of changes coming, I think, in college athletics. Exactly what way and how, I don't know. I am very worried about these changes for a variety of reasons. First and foremost is I really want to run a program of student athletes. I'm not interested in running an NFL or a Major League Baseball or any of that. If people who want to do that and don't have an interest in being a student shouldn't be here or at any other school being a student athlete. So, we had a long conversation. In fact, this Friday and Saturday, I was just in Indianapolis with the meeting of the chancellors and presidents in the Big Ten. We had a long conversation about what is it that we need to do that recognizes the fact we've got a lot of money here sloshing around, and we do need to make sure that the students get what they need from that. On the other hand, we need to make sure this remains a student athlete program. Part of the problem with this is the discussion is all about paying students in revenue sports. Well, we have 23 sports at Madison. 2 of them make money. The rest don't. They cost me money. And there's a huge value to those sports. I believe in student athletes, not because I believe in football per se or basketball per se, but I believe that the sort of discipline that students in athletics learn and the teamwork and the other things you get from sports are actually worth learning, just in the same way that I think dance programs and art programs are worthwhile. And I want to be able to support a broad set of sports. So I don't want to spend all my money in the 2 revenue sports. I want to distribute that money to support all 23 programs. So that's a goal. A second goal, as I say, is to really keep the student athlete. And the third goal is to recognize that we do have a lot more money and we need to make sure our students receive real benefits from that. So if you look at all of our students, not just the revenue sports students, a very high share of them in the revenue sports, almost all of them get scholarships that cover not just tuition, they cover the full cost of attendance. All of them on top of that can come and eat free any meal at a quite good cafeteria over in they all get top coaching. They all get full health insurance, and that health insurance lasts for up to 2 years after they leave, and longer if they have an injury that relates to their competition. So, we do a lot of career counseling, we do a lot of tutoring and academic support. I think people don't fully understand how much value the students are getting. If you cost that out, it is a very substantial amount of money per year that student athletes are each receiving. But, you know, there are going to be changes in this. And my concern is that we can make those changes without simply abrogating entirely the whole idea that these are students. Because when that happens, I'm no longer interested in running a sports program.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a long answer, but it's, yeah.
Yeah, but Danny's gonna, are you gonna build a new building on the same location?
Well, we can't quite tear that down yet because while we've gotten much of the music program out into the new console, and we're now going to be moving history and some of the area studies in a lot of classrooms, we still have the whole top floor is filled with the art department. We've got a lot of skylights and things up there, and they require some pretty specialized space. And we still got some part of the music school in there. So we've got some more building to do before we can tear that down. When that does come down, my guess is we will certainly build on the site, but it's not going to be one large monstrous concrete building. We're much more likely to build several smaller buildings with some green space in between, maybe go up a little bit more on some of them, really figure out how you create a little bit more livable. Any of you have been and used that humanities building know it's you can't navigate through it. You know, the concrete is falling off of it. It is not a pretty place on campus to be. And it's you know, the main corner of the main entrance to campus. So, you know, whoever my successor is should look forward to doing the design work on what that is going to look like. Right.
John?
This is a bit of a curveball, but we are hearing about organizations, schools in particular, in lieu, in the reaction to crazies, like in Oxford, the high school is now being brought into the situation of what could the high school have done to defuse the situation? You know what I'm talking about?
I actually, oh, you mean the local Oxford, not Oxford, England. Yeah. We're talking about Michigan. Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of plan on keeping your eye on that sort of thing, or are you just going to wait for it to happen?
So I think the biggest nightmare of any president or chancellor is a shooting incident on campus. And, you know, we're in a state that has open carry. You can carry a rifle across your back through my campus. I can post my buildings, but I can't stop you from being on campus with a loaded gun. And I worry about that every day. We've done drills with the police. We post every building. We do all sorts of things to try to both limit exposure to the extent possible. You know, there are always a number of people on campus, students and our faculty and staff, who we are aware of that are not entirely stable. And we stay in very close touch with them. But, you know, can I guarantee you that we can prevent that? You know, there's no way I can guarantee that. And I will tell you, it's everyone's worst nightmare. Nobody wants to go through that. And
Good
yeah,
answer.
yeah,
I'll
Yeah.
throw another curveball.
yeah. I want to. There's been someone back here who's had her hand raised a long time. Yeah.
In terms of the new letters of science,
Mhm.
is there any accommodation for music faculty or rehearsal rooms? And if not, are there plans?
Well, that's why we can't empty that building yet, in part because both the art school and a number of rehearsal rooms and practice rooms are still in that building. And until we can build alternative space or rent alternative space for them, we're not emptying that building.
So there is
Yeah.
no alternative space plan for the current letters of science building underway.
No, that is not going to be a music building. That will be completely filled with classrooms, the Department of History, a number of various studies programs. It lets us move everyone out except the art and the music programs. And those need specialized spaces that this is not going to be designed to fill. But we are working on what we have to do for those plans. I do not think the state is going to fund an art building for us. You know, believe me, it was hard enough to get them to fund in the first one in 50 years with a much more expanded student body and new classroom building. So we're trying to think about some creative ways to do that with maybe some form of public-private partnerships that we can use. Yeah. Kevin.
My curveball is about the article yesterday about the
Yeah.
professor in engineering who everybody knew he was a bully, it seemed.
Yeah.
And it led to a suicide of a grad student. And
Mhm.
the response seems to be good, but what is it from the inside? Why did it last so long? And he's not alone.
Yeah.
I've been
Oh,
on that campus a long time,
Yeah.
25
Yeah.
years, and there's some bad people on campus.
Yeah,
who
I understand that.
continue to do their thing in the negative way.
In 2015, our faculty passed one of the first hostile and intimidating behavior policies in the country. The first one certainly in the state of Wisconsin. Before that, you know, if you were bullying people on campus, unless it was a sexual discrimination or abuse situation or a clear discrimination case based on race or ethnicity, there were not laws and there were not policies, right? And I'm not going to excuse that, but that was the world we lived in. And yes, it did happen more than it should have. That policy was passed in 2015. Mr. Saeed was the first person that we took up with that policy. It was our very first case. You know, we probably would have done some things a little differently. We've learned things as, you know, you've tried to implement a policy. We suspended him for 2 years as a result of that first investigation. That means 2 years without any access to labs or any access to students. Now, this was a very research active engineering person who's on the front of his field, and being cut out of the labs for 2 years can really destroy your career. To be honest, we thought he would leave. And, you know, made sure that he was out of contact with students. He generated a job offer with the National Science Foundation, went out there for 2 years, filled and came back. And it was very clear none of his behavior had changed, and we launched a second investigation and terminated him, right? You know, that I don't know that we could have done that differently given where we were, not having seen this. But a 2-year suspension was the most severe suspension disciplinary case we'd ever passed down at Wisconsin. So that was considered a really big deal when we did it. It didn't work, as it turned out, right? And, you know, that will, say, affect sort of how we deal with this in the future. But you know, just like I worry about shootings, I know that there are people who don't behave well on campus. We have 22,000 faculty and staff on campus. The good news is we now have a policy about this. We've had less than 10 cases that have come forward with complaints, including Mr. Saeed's. I actually consider that a very small number out of 22,000 employees and staff, and probably we should have some more. You know, it's actually a sign of success that people are bringing things forward, and we're doing everything we can to notify not just graduate students, but staff, and it's often lower level staff get the brunt of all of this as well, that they do have rights, and this is what they need to do if they are experiencing an abusive atmosphere. You know, we're working on this one. I'm deeply sorry about what's happened in the Saeed case.
Having been involved
Yeah.
in staff governance,
Yeah.
I know we worked with the faculty on our policies too. So we appreciated the
Yeah.
support from administration because it needed to be done.
Yeah.
And still more needs to be done.
I don't disagree.
Kim,
Could you comment on sororities and fraternities on campus?
So we have a number of Greek organizations on campus. About a third of them have houses and about 2/3 don't. A number of the sororities and fraternities are really excellent programs that involve students volunteering all throughout the community, get students connected and networked with other alumni from that Greek organization across the world in some cases. You know, they're really fine student-run organizations oftentimes. There are a small number that do not fit that description. We currently have actually expelled several fraternities from campus. I think we have 3 that are under suspension, meaning they cannot operate at the moment until they take certain steps. We work very closely with the national organization in those circumstances. And when we are fortunate, the national organization works with us because they want to clean this up. There's the cases that we've expelled were cases where the national organization didn't seem to be interested. So we weren't going to get very far on our own. It is unfortunate that there are a number of bad apples that tar the entire set of organizations here, but I don't want to abolish Greek life on campus, given the very good things it does for very many students. That said, I and everyone on the executive team have no problems punishing, coming down, suspending, making sure that any place that we get complaints about is dealt with as quickly as we can. Okay, I'll take one more question and then I've got to run, but yeah.
You have the university farms on the other side of the belt
Yeah.
line. Is there any plans to move it further out because Benton County is just growing so much?
Don't tell Bill Tracy that, who does all of his card research out there. We own quite a bit of land on the other side of the Beltline. The University Research Park has what they call Research Park 2 that has not been opened up at all. We own land on both sides of that road from Cal's. My reaction to all of that land is it's a really good time to land bank that and hand on to it. It gets more valuable every day. As we are looking at opportunities for additional ways to generate our own revenues and not rely on the state, one of the options that we're in the midst of exploring, and we just signed a big MOU with the Board of Regents and the University Research Park, is to do some more public-private development ventures. I mentioned that with regard to the art school. And there are some properties, particularly right on the road, where you could imagine building some mixed-use development where we retain the land and retain ground rights and get long-term lease payments in exchange for that. I don't think there are any plans to get rid of all that land, but it is possible that sometime in the next 5 to 10 years, some of the immediately along the line, along the road, land could be used for other purposes that would generate revenue for the university. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. It's great to see you. I'm gonna run, so. The semester is still on.
Mike, are you ready? Where is Mike? Mike has our moment of reflection, which I postponed because of the chancellor's time.
It's a tough act to follow, but what I have here is a short quote from Mark Twain, whom I've quoted before, but in the past I've always quoted some kind of curmudgeonly or pithy sayings. This is a little bit different, Mr. And he said, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than the ones you did do. So throw off the bow lines, sail away from safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. I wanted to keep it short because Abe reminded me this was the moment of reflection, not the war and peace of reflection.
So I counted 22 guests, 5 on Zoom. So we had a good turnout for the chancellor. I'd like to introduce a guest. So if you have a guest, I'll start. My wife Karen has joined me again today. Other guests, I can't tell everybody.
Paul Abramson. Paul, wave at us. Thank you. Paul is my guest. He is on the board for the Friends of Madison Student Radio with me.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Paul. Ken Kosick.
We have a guest, Dr. David Reinhardt, lecturer at the University of Whitewater, philosophy and religious studies and potential member.
Potential member, thank you. We have a couple of Madison West colleagues. Ron.
Ron Schuler, I'm secretary of the club. We also have Dennis Keeney, who is our president. He's on virtual. You see him up in the left-hand corner. And Bruce, you can.
Bruce Haney. Thank you for coming. I think that we have 2 after-hours club members, right, Cole? And Circle K, great. Thank you for coming. Are you a UW Madison student? Okay. It'll be interesting times when Becky's gone with 9 years of her leadership. I've gone through transitions of chancellors and it's a big mix up on campus. The students don't see it all the time, but staff and faculty always do see leadership changes. What else do I have? Oh, this afternoon, Jim Patch is going to the Cops and Kids. I know Madison West will be there. It's a book giveaway at the Goodman Center. We will be represented there. Thank you, Jim, for going and taking pictures. Any other announcements, please? Circle K, come on up. We need to use this microphone so the Zoom people can hear us.
So my name is Caitlin Van Buren. I was the district governor last year for Circle K. And I just wanted to formally thank everyone. You guys helped fund me to go to the Education Leadership Conference this past summer, where I was elected as an international trustee. So now I represent the districts of Montana, Capital, Pennsylvania, and New England. So I work with them. So yeah, I just want to say thank you. And then I was going to give you an update on our club as well, because I go to UW Madison. So right now I believe we have 31 paid members, which is pretty comparable to previous years. I believe we had ended with 32 or 33 last year. And we're just busy doing service and like adapting to going back to in-person things. All of our officers are actually sophomores who weren't even on campus when the pandemic started. So it's just kind of transitioning into what the club looks like while we're in person. But I mostly just want to say thank you for funding me to go on that trip, because it worked out really well and it was nice seeing everyone there. So, yeah.
Caitlin, I'm going to ask your help in connecting to the new leadership and seeing if we can do some things together too, because we'll be doing some activities that would be nice, as well as after hours club, now that you're part of our club. Anybody else with announcements? Jerry.
We had a blood drive this last Wednesday at the Department of Revenue, and we had 47 donors that showed up for that. That's a little bit low for what it used to be there, which was usually in the low 70s. And it looked like the parking lot was fairly full, and they must all be back working in the building based on the number of cars in the lot. However, as most of you know that know anything about blood donations, Christmas time, right around Christmas Day, they have that major blood, yeah, they have the major donation over at the Alliant Energy Center. And it's just across the street from where the Department of Revenue is. So I'm sure a lot of them are kind of holding back. We did have a few more donors, I think 2 months ago when we had the donations, there were probably in the upper 30s. So there are quite a few more this time than last time. I'd like to thank, first of all, Dick Hammerstrom, Abe Aberley, Cole, Tom. I'm saying first names because you know these people. Bob Rand, all worked with me on the blood drive. So thank you very much.
Kevin?
John Icky. Watch the cards, watch the cards. I gotta, Richard and I gotta protect you. You made it.
Karen and I had a very nice time yesterday evening. We went over to Peter Fisher's house, and Meg was there, Kitty was there, and Peter was there. Everyone was in good shape, and particularly Peter is his old self again. He wasn't even grumbling. And so that's definitely a positive.
Thank you for the update. I do have from Tom Broad, sign up for bell ringing. We have festival foods on East Washington, Saturday, December 11th. So it's this coming Saturday, as well as Metro Market West, 3650 University Avenue. We have shifts 8 to 10 a.m. and 10 a.m. to noon at both locations. So we need, Ken Cossack is signed up. It's always best to do it in pairs. It just makes the 2 hours go a little quicker. Please sign up on your way out if you're interested in bell ringing for the Salvation Army. I'll put it on this table here. Any other? Okay, Patricia.
This is my report on the Beacon. Chris and I gathered up a lot of women's underwear, and we also bought some new. So a week ago, I delivered $100 and some worth of newly purchased underwear and delivered it. And today I delivered another big bag, and this was all used. But then in addition, there was washcloths and socks. And let's see what else was in there. But just miscellaneous items they need. Oh, soap. So we're working at it and we're taking care of them. They know to call us when they need help. Thank you.
Thank you. Next week, we have an interesting attempt at a speaker with an interesting topic. This is a gentleman from Australia who is a diplomat, administrator, various things that we all, Jim doesn't even know about, I think, but he's going to talk about interactions with Nelson Mandela, who was in Australia to receive an award, I believe. And he is zooming in live, we believe, which means they are how many hours ahead of us?
He's gonna be on Zoom at 5 a.m. our Tuesday, hour 5.
So they are ahead of us half a day. I routinely do work with Thailand and I Zoom either 12 or 13 hours. They're ahead of us. So it's a little bit less because it's noon. I have to get up at 6 a.m. and they're at 7 p.m. in Bangkok. So it's the same type of thing, but we appreciate Jim making such unusual connections.
Well, actually, it was John Esser.
Oh, John Esser.
He's a friend of John's.
Okay, so we have a lot of connections, and that raises a point of we're filling up January and February. If you have friends, colleagues, people from all over the world who might want to talk with us on a subject of interest, let Jim know. He's doing an amazing job of getting speakers. I'm trying to remember who's in 2 weeks. What is the day today? Is the 11th.
Well,
so the 13th.
It's going to be the history of Christmas music.
Ah, very appropriate. We have, and he's talked with us before. No,
he's almost a member.
He's almost a member. He's talked with us several times. So history of Christmas music. And then we do not have a meeting on the 27th, but then we're back with John Ickey's arranged 3 book reviews. Dolly, who else is doing a book review? Ken and Eileen. Okay, so that's the first Monday in January, and we're working on the 10th yet. And the 17th, again, I'll remind you, is a club discussion. Last announcement, and I put it in the email this morning, for sure, Ken and I are going to join Madison West on the 17th. Friday at Schwegler Lanes for their regular meeting. It's going to be an overview of their foundation activities. So Ken and I want to eavesdrop and see what you guys are up to with your money. So anybody else interested in making an interclub, either let me or Ken know, or we'll just meet you there. Again, Schwegler Lanes at about 11:30?
Yes.
11:30.
You only need 2 for an interclub.
Oh, we already got an interclub. Let's do a bigger one then. Any other announcements, thoughts, ideas? What have I forgotten? Anything?
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell. Okay. I appreciated Becky's comments and a lot of good questions from all of you. So thank you, and we will see you next week.
Yeah.